Meanwhile, two cars are speeding along with their headlights off, and if this old man has seen urban legend, then he knows not to... Aw, damn it, Nick! Now you've gotten yourself into a convenient plot device. From the director of Saw and the creator of the Conjuring Universe comes a gritty tale of revenge. Join JoBlo Horror as we take a journey with Kevin Bacon being all kinds of badass and death sentence. And now, please welcome to the stage our bartender, Mike Conway. Welcome to Horror Party Movies, everyone, where we take our favorite horror films and make a fun game out of it. I'm Mike Conway, and today we're going to step out of the horror genre for just a bit and talk about James Wan's 2007 revenge thriller, Death Sentence. Death Sentence follows Nick Hume, a mild-mannered executive with a perfect life, until one gruesome night he witnesses something that changes him forever. Transformed by grief, Hume eventually comes to the disturbing conclusion that no length is too great when protecting his family. So what kind of party is Death Sentence? Well, according to this scale, Death Sentence is kind of dark, man. So let's turn up that dial just a bit and make this a little bit more fun. And as always, I'll make a fun drink to tie along with the movie, and I'll show you that recipe right after these credits. Cheers, everyone, especially this guy. As with any game, there are basic rules you must follow. Keeping in line with horror tropes, take a drink when someone drinks or does drugs, someone screams, when there is a jump scare, when a car won't start, when there's a clumsy escape, and finally, with any kill. If alcohol isn't your bag, there are plenty of other things to choose from. Cannabis, if legal in your state, Delta 8, 9, 10, or whatever the hell number they're at now. Caffeine, hot sauce, anything. Just know your tolerance. This is supposed to be fun. We don't want to send you to the hospital. Basically, don't be a dumbass. Here, read this disclaimer if that helps. And I'll be right here playing along with you. You ready?
That's a sweetie.
Let's party. The movie opens with some home movies of best dad ever, Nick, and his family. Even though he has two sons, Brendan and Luke, he clearly shows favoritism to his firstborn. Sorry, Luke, maybe you need to learn the knuckle puck to one-up your bro. We see right away he's a loving husband and father, but he's also very passionate about his job as VP of an insurance company.
Smoking is bad, speeding is bad, deaths in the family are bad, divorce is bad.
Drugs are bad.
Even though he's busy with work, he still makes sure his family is in order and supports Brendan's hockey games while his wife Helen focuses on Luke's soccer. After the game, Nick and Brendan talk about the possibility of going up to Canada for college.
Canada is far.
Yes, it is far from where this flick was filmed. My hometown in Columbia, South Carolina. Go Gamecocks! Meanwhile, two cars are speeding along with their headlights off, and if this old man has seen urban legend, then he knows not to... Aw, damn it, Nick! Now you've gotten yourself into a convenient plot device. They pull off to the shadiest gas station ever, but it's easy to look past the upkeep nowadays when you look at those kind of gas prices. While Nick pumps his gas, golden boy Brendan heads in to grab himself a celebratory slushie. As he leaves his wife a voicemail, Nick doesn't notice the street gang plow themselves into the gas station. They immediately blow away the clerk and use Brendan as an initiation to get into the gang. I won't count this as part of the drinking game because, damn. Nick wrestles his son's killer to the ground, where he removes his mask as the rest of the gang leaves him behind. The fresh Killer Joe then runs out into the street. And if you've seen a lot of movies from the 2000s, then you already know what's coming up next. Later at a lineup, Nick identifies his son's murderer. Hey, I know that guy. But finds out from the DA that since Nick is the only witness, there's a good chance he will only get a maximum of 3 to 5 years. He reluctantly decides to go ahead with it, but changes his mind as soon as he sees this smug little bastard in court and decides it's game over for this spy kid. He declines to identify the killer, which sets Joe free. Later that night, Nick makes a quick stop to the Voorhees weaponry before tracking down his son's killer at a seedy apartment complex. At first, he doesn't recognize him, but I can help you out with that.
6 degrees of Kevin Bacon.
This kid was in Spy Kids 3 with Mike Judge, who was in R.I.P.D. with Kevin Bacon. Boom. The two scuffled for a bit until Joe is accidentally stabbed, silencing Gary's giggles for good. At the office the next morning, world's greatest detective, Jessica Wallace, informs Nick his son's killer has been murdered.
Oh. Well, what was that? Some kind of a gang thing?
Smooth. Meanwhile, Billy, the leader of the gang, pays a visit to the shady mechanic who runs a black market gun shop played by, holy shit, John Goodman's in this? And before you can connect Big Lebowski with Jeff Bridges, who was in R.I.P.D. with Bacon, his scene is over. Billy then goes back to his gang, who inform him his newest member has been murdered. They all meet up at this bar called the Four Roses, and for my fellow Soda City folks out there, this is actually a joint called group therapy. They try to figure out who may have killed Joe, but conveniently again, one of the members' sisters is at the bar and points Nick out in the newspaper. The entire gang track Nick down outside his office building where a lengthy chase scene ensues, which would make Tom Cruise proud. It all leads to an insanely well shot and choreographed scene in a parking garage. He's able to hide from them until he reaches the top of the garage where he encounters one of the members. Sure, this guy seems tough, but quickly learns that he should never fuck with the Bacon. This all leads to a choking match inside a car with the emblem scratched out, but come on, we all know that's a Ford Taurus. As the car is placed in neutral, it begins to roll backwards as Nick ties the gang member down with a seatbelt and jumps out before the car crashes down onto a very unlucky parking spot. Nick 2, gang 1. However, Nick failed to realize he left his briefcase behind with all his personal information, dumbass. Back at the office, gang member played by Eddie Gathegi storms in with a package just for Nick. What's the connection, you ask? Screw it, let's stick with R.I.P.D. So Gathegi was in Twilight with Kristen Stewart, who was in Adventureland with Ryan Reynolds, who was in R.I.P.D. with Bacon. Anyway, the contents of the package are his briefcase along with a family member with all the members X'd out, along with a phone number that is as real as these license plates. Immediately, he rushes home to meet with his family and ace detective Jessica. She knows Nick is behind this and informs him he needs to stop before a war breaks out. But, I mean, it already had broken out, right? Instead of moving the family somewhere safe, she has 2 officers and 1 police car to watch over the house overnight, assuring the family are good to go. Well, Billy and the gang bust in the house, and all hell breaks loose when Billy guns down his family before putting one last bullet in Nick. Nick awakens into some frantic 2000s editing in the hospital when the incredible detective tells him,
"This thing stops right now."
I mean, it doesn't take a detective to know who is after him. It also doesn't take a detective to know that Aisha Tyler was an Archer with guest voice James Hong, who was in R.I.P.D. with Bacon either. She informs Nick his son Luke is alive, so he breaks free to visit his son. While comatose, Nick lets Luke know how important he is to him, and he's sorry for never giving him the same treatment he did with Brendan. I'm no nurse, but is anyone concerned that Luke's heart rate is 34 and the ventilating machine is on standby? They need to fix that before Nick starts a war with the hospital. Nick escapes from the hospital, cleans out his bank account, and pays a visit to the Four Roses bar to ask where he can find Billy. When the bartender refuses, Nick tends the dude's face to the bar and then pays for the info. He also gives a tip where to buy some guns, which gives us some always welcome Goodman screen time. After purchasing the weapons, Goodman's character Bones lets Nick know he's the father of Billy and Joe and gives Nick permission to go after his son.
But you think about asking me where Billy is, I'll kill you.
While preparing for what may be his final battle, Nick learns how to use some guns and gives himself the Tommy Jarvis look from Friday the 13th, the final chapter. Honestly, Kevin Bacon can only make this look badass. His first stop is the apartment complex, where he forces one of the gang members to tell him where Billy is before taking him out while Billy is listening. Bones then meets up with Billy to inform him that Nick is after him, and that he actually does care what happens to the kid, but Billy isn't the model son like Brendan and shoots his dad. Man, that's some cold shit. Nick then heads to the gang's headquarters where he rams his car into a van driven by Lee Wannell and proceeds inside. He runs into another gang member and reminds him that he was once in Footloose. From there, he finishes off the rest of the gang as Billy arrives. Damn, this is stylish. As most final boss matches go, this one lasts a little longer. The two of them seriously wound each other and take a time out on the bench.
Ready?
Sure. One last time. Garrett Hedlund was in Tron Legacy with Jeff Bridges, who was in R.I.P.D. with Kevin Bacon. Nick finally puts Billy's Friday night lights out for good. Nick finally returns home and watches his home movies of his family as a swarm of police show up with star detective Wallace.
Your son. He started moving.
Thanks. Can you take me to the fucking hospital?
And that's it. Death Sentence came out in 2007 to some negative reviews, but that didn't stop me from liking this flick. What other kind of movies would you like to see us cover in the future? Let us know in the comments and I'll consider it. Until next time, guys, have a good one.